Realists don't get attention. It's the optimists that get all the clicks, all the likes, all the subscribes. And so if you hear another crypto channel pushing up crypto, pushing up your altcoin, your Bitcoin, then you're more likely to listen. But the problem is, if you always stay a permabull, you also have to go through the valleys. And unfortunately, crypto is that volatile that most people won't hold for the long term. For Bitcoin, you can hold over the cycles. For most other altcoins, you cannot. And so I believe it is very essential to still time the market. But the nice thing about it is we've got a lot of data that does help us timing the market much better than, for example, for the stock market. We can use on-chain data to see who's buying and selling. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Let's first see how much money is flowing in and out of the crypto market as a whole. What we've got over here is a chart that starts in September of 2021, and it shows us the stablecoin market cap of DAI and USDC and USDT, BUSD, a few stablecoins all added together in market cap. And this shows us how much money is flowing into crypto and out of crypto. If you send your hard-earned US dollars to a centralized exchange like Binance, Binance will then send this over to, for example, Tether. Tether then creates tokens on the chain, and that then pops up here in this chart. If you're withdrawing from Binance and you want to have fiat dollars, you're sending over your Tether. Binance gets the fiat back from Tether. It's been transferred to you. The token is destroyed, and so this curve goes down. And so there's a very high correlation between this chart and crypto prices. We saw a massive rally, especially in meme coins, since October of last year, but since the middle of April, this line unfortunately is going sideways. Now what happened over here? This was the Terra Luna collapse. So this is when the Anchor protocol imploded. This is when UST depegged, and then a lot of people simply exited crypto. Now this happened after we went sideways for a while. If history was to repeat itself one more time, and we only have until the middle of July to see another bear market, to see outflows again. Will history repeat itself in that manner? I'm not so sure, but at least we don't see any new inflows for quite a while. And that is the reason why I believe a lot of altcoins are doing pretty poorly. That's also the reason why Bitcoin isn't doing that great. Now there was a lot of talk about the Bitcoin ETF, how traditional finance is going to scoop up all of the Bitcoin and then push up the price. Unfortunately, we haven't really seen that positive of a net flow, that massive of an inflow from those different ETFs. So what we've got over here is the total net flow. Additionally, this was very positive, but since March of this year, we are rather trending around the zero line. We tend to still be slightly above on average, but when we take away this initial wave of adoption and we just look at the middle of March to today, we annualize this rather slow increase over here. Then we're looking at currently 4.42% of all of Bitcoin in those ETFs. And that increased in the span of 3 months from 4.26%. So a 0.16% increase over 3 months. Annualizing this brings us to a supply absorption of 0.64%. So at the current pace, right, the pace in the last 3 months, if that was to continue for the next 10 years, then the Bitcoin ETFs would absorb roughly 6%, a bit over 6% of Bitcoin supply. 0.64% per annum isn't really that much. Now there's also a lot of talk about Mt. Gox, how Mt. Gox might distribute their holdings soon to the creditors. There's 140,000 Bitcoin in Mt. Gox holdings. 140,000 divided by 21 million, the maximum supply at some point is 0.66%. In other words, Mt. Gox has a supply that's equal to 1 year worth of Bitcoin ETF absorption, roughly. The Bitcoin ETF will not push up the price when at the same time Mt. Gox is distributing their Bitcoin. When the supply absorption of the Bitcoin ETF is that minuscule, it's that small, and at the same time Mt. Gox is distributing Bitcoin to the same order of magnitude, why would we hold Bitcoin? Let's say we hold it over the next, not 1 year, but over the next, say, 4 years. Can we actually expect Bitcoin to go up over the next 4 years? I believe yes, and here's why. Check out this chart. This shows Bitcoin over the very long term, when Bitcoin was just a few cents, all the way to today on a logarithmic scale. And what we've got here at the bottom is the hodl waves, as in how much of all of Bitcoin's supply hasn't moved for at least 5 years. So that's the Bitcoin that is really long-term held. And that continues to increase. And that's why I believe all those tops tend to be higher from one rally to the next. It's simply more and more Bitcoin that's been held by the long-term investors. And when the long-term investors scoop up Bitcoin faster than it's been mined, which is implied with this line here, right? Because this is again a percentage of all of Bitcoin supply. This is not the number of Bitcoin. When this is going up, then the other part, right, the liquid Bitcoin becomes a smaller and smaller fraction. Thus, the price has to go up, especially when it's been supported by fiat inflation, as in USM2, the US money supply going up by roughly 7% per year, by the way. We are in a somewhat problematic environment. There's no more money flowing into Bitcoin and there's no more demand by the Bitcoin ETF. And at the same time, what's causing these massive ups and downs in the price is not the long-term holders, right? We've seen that the holders that hold Bitcoin for at least 5 years tend to simply just go up over time. The price increases and price crashes happen all because of the medium-term holders. And that's shown in this chart over here. This is the Bitcoin that's been held by the wallets that have their Bitcoin for 6 months all the way to 5 years. So no long-term holders, no ultra short-term holders, it's the medium-term holders. And this also tends to fluctuate. This tends to be very, very low when the price is high. It tends to be rather high when the price is low. In other words, those medium-term holders, they are distributing to the ultra short-term holders at high prices. And currently, unfortunately, we are again very low on this metric. In other words, it's the very, very short-term holders that currently hold Bitcoin. We can invert this chart by just looking at the short-term holders. And that's then what we are getting. We are relatively high here again. And so I'm not very bullish on Bitcoin right now. This is the Bitcoin Strategy channel, but I'm not a channel that always promotes Bitcoin, that always tells you to buy Bitcoin. I do share whenever I'm bearish, even though this doesn't give the likes and the subscribes. Most people simply just want to get Moonboy content. This is not that channel though. Let's have a look at how much more Bitcoin can fall from here potentially. What do we need to prepare ourselves for? What we see over here in orange is the realized price. So this is the average cost basis of the market. And Bitcoin tends to hover around that realized price. Sometimes the current price is below the realized price. So that's when the market in aggregate is in losses. That's when we want to buy. And sometimes the market is in gains. That's when we want to sell potentially. Right now, the market is more than 2x in gains. The realized price is at 30,000. In other words, I believe this is a potential bearish low point. We could fall even below 30,000. Nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to talk about it. But yes, I believe 30K in Bitcoin is a real possibility. You need to be set up overall with your portfolio that you can potentially buy the bottom in case we fall lower. If you cannot stomach a drop to 30K, then probably you are overexposed. Then probably it makes sense to also own some stock, maybe some long-term government bonds, maybe some gold, maybe some cash, whatever it is. Have something that's not correlated to crypto and to Bitcoin, so that in case we do turn bearish, in case we do fall further from here, that it is possible to buy the dip. Crypto is super cyclical, and right now we don't see any inflows, we don't see any demand, but we do see everybody being massively in profit, and some people might take some profit, might realize that profit, and that's then when the price tends to, of course, go down. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. I did sell a lot of my Bitcoin one day after the all-time high. I also sold pretty much all of the rest, all of the speculative Bitcoin, at least 1 week ago before this crash. I'm not saying that I'm always correct, but this time I was somewhat lucky with timing. If you're interested in my calls, what I'm buying, what I'm selling, when I buy something, when I short something, right, when I bet on falling prices, feel free to check out the premium membership as well. The link is down below. It's thebitcoinstrategy.com. And if your portfolio isn't yet large enough to justify premium, there's also a Telegram channel, a free Telegram channel. Looking forward to chatting with you over there as well. Cheers.